Hey, what's up, people? This is Ike Love. I'm creating and author of the blog, The Viable Alternative, which is an inspirational blog where I share the wisdom and insights gained on my path to becoming a greater, stronger version of myself. And if you want to get to the site, you can click on the description on this window and click on www.theviablealternative.com. Anyway, today I want to talk about ways in which you can improve your self-esteem. I think it's horrifically important that we all learn how to have high self-esteem, because self-esteem determines the quality of our life, from the people we date to our health, to where we live, to our relationships, to the type of job we have, the money we earn, etc., etc., etc. To briefly start, excuse me. Jeez, what's going on? Self-esteem can be described, comes from the word estimare, the Latin word, which is our estimate, how we estimate ourselves, how we value ourselves, the value we place on ourselves. So people who have a high self-esteem value themselves highly, and people who have a low self-esteem value themselves lowly, or place a low value on themselves. And to me personally, well, first off, I think there's a lot of crap out there, and I want to share with you what has worked for me. But first thing I want to say is that I personally think that when people don't have a low self-esteem, it's because, basically speaking, they lack a connection to who they really are at their core. That's really when I hear self-esteem, from my experience on my path, it's a lack of a connection to who they really are. Because really, to the core, we are completely luminous and magnificent beings. And when we're able to connect to that, there's no way you cannot value that. It's kind of like just say eating a strawberry is the greatest thing in the world. And I can write about it or tell you what it's like, or you can go and actually eat the damn strawberry, and that experience itself will lead you to value it because you actually had that experience of what eating a strawberry is. So, yeah. These steps I'm going to describe here now is basically all connected to the fact of connecting to oneself. And to connect to yourself, we first have to understand and accept the fact that what the self is. And unfortunately, in the West, we're taught that the self is what we are in our minds. We're a mental concept, which is totally wrong. Eastern philosophy, which science is starting to catch up to, equates us not only to being who we are in our minds, but also in our body. The mind and body are generally one. The mind is the body, the body is the mind. So to understand the self, we have to accept the fact that we're body and mind. And to connect to ourselves, we have to understand we have to get out of our head and connect to who we are at the core of who we are. And understanding that, we have to understand that our bodies, our self, our psyche is everywhere, in our hands, our feet, our toes, And so if we really want to experience to who we are to the fullest extent of our beings, we have to get into our bodies and really embody ourselves. And that means being in the present. We cannot be in the present in our minds. We either thinking about the past or thinking about the future, but we're thinking. But to really embody ourselves, really get into the present, we have to get into our bodies where we're living moment to moment. So understand, before we even get into more of this discussion of self-esteem, which part of that word is self, we have to get real or understanding that the self is mind and body, and embodying that. So first step to connecting to ourselves is remove all distractions. And distractions are anything that we do in excess, whether it's eating in excess, or watching TV in excess, or working in excess, or drinking in excess, or partying in excess, anything excess. Anything we do in excess basically distracts from who we are. So the first thing we need to do is remove all distractions. A lot of people get into relationships because they need the distraction. A lot of people, like I said, they don't like who they are, or they don't like their lives, so they're willing to put things in front of them so to give them that distraction. So the first thing we need to do, and you know what you're doing in excess that because you're using or you need some type of distraction. So the first thing to do, like I said, remove all distractions in your life. The next thing, step number 2 is to heal your wounds. Learn to heal. A lot of us, healing wounds, emotional wounds, is another distraction, and I'm making this a separate step. In our lives, everybody has emotional wounds, starting from childhood. We have trauma from the fact, and traumas are caused from experiencing abandonment, abuse, or neglect. And each one of us in our young, callow, immature minds have interpreted our experiences of some type of abuse, neglect, or abandonment, whether they were true or not. The fact of the matter is we interpreted that and we have wounds because of that, emotional wounds. And also we have wounds just from experiencing lives, from breakups and people betraying us and disappointments and things like that. And that all amounts to us having a bunch of emotional wounds inside of us because unfortunately, Western society does not teach us how to deal with emotional wounds or deal with our emotions or give them a proper outlet. So we generally bottle them up inside and they feel very uncomfortable. So a lot of us, we're not necessarily on a conscious level able to feel these emotions, but on a body level, we feel them and we do things to self-medicate so that we numb ourselves to feeling these emotions. And because we're numbing ourselves to feeling these emotions, we are not, we are, what do we call? We are prevented from experiencing who we are to the core. What I'm basically getting at, so I don't confuse you, is that our body holds a bunch of different emotions. And because we don't want to feel them, we kind of go up in our heads and live in our heads. And what happens is that because we wind up being disconnected from our bodies, because we don't want to experience the pain. And the only way to connect to our bodies and connect to ourselves is to connect to the pain. There's a phrase that says we have to feel it to heal it. To learn to heal from emotional wounds, we have to be willing to connect to them and experience them and feel them. And that, in a way, is then we can start to now experience ourselves to the core. And by experiencing ourselves to the core, we can again now start to value who we are, start to take the steps to value who we are. Step number 3, learn to honor ourselves. When I say honor ourselves, is to honor the yearnings of our soul, our dreams, our hopes, our desires, our wants, our wishes. Start to listen to them and start to act upon them. Start to take heed to them. Think about ourselves. Think about the fact we have a child in front of us, and the child's value it places itself is according to how you treat it. So therefore, if you treat the child bad and you ignore its wishes, wants, and desires, the child's going to think, oh, this person doesn't care about me. Therefore, I don't care about myself. I don't value myself. I must not be worth anything. But if you listen to kids' desires and dreams and wants, you honor them, you listen to them, you take heed to them, the child will think, oh, this person really values me, so therefore I value myself. Well, it's the same thing with ourselves. Ourselves are watching us and how we treat ourselves. So if we ignore our wishes, our wants, and desires, and we don't pay heed to them, ourselves are going to think that we don't value us, or we don't value ourselves. But if we start to now take steps into honoring our desires and what we have, our yearnings, the self's going to think, oh, this person values me. So so what we want to do is to start listening to ourselves. And, it doesn't have to be a huge thing. If you have certain hobbies or things you want to do in life, you don't have to swallow the whole thing at once, but start taking small steps toward it. And as you start taking small steps towards it, the self that is watching is going to think, oh, this person values me. And with the feeling of being valued, our self-esteem will raise. I can tell you that some of the biggest spikes in self-esteem I had was when I started listening to my desires, and it just gave this embodiment and feeling that I can't that I couldn't read in a book or learn in a seminar or said an affirmation. It just gave me this feeling of feeling valued by myself and therefore higher self-esteem. The next step, and step number, I always lose, I always lose track of my steps. Step number 4, and if it's not, well, whatever. But step number 4 is learn to consistently step out of your comfort zone. And I'm not saying this only because it builds confidence, but it's a deeper meaning of why you want to learn how to step out of your comfort zone. Think about it like this. They say the greatest ways that people build bonds is when they've gone through some harrowing experience together with one another, whether it's through war or being on the same sports team, where you're going through the emotional highs and lows of it, where, in the case of war, where, you have to have each other's back and, you're faced with life and death at any particular moment. That builds a strong emotional bond. Or if you're in a sports team together and you're training together and you're encouraging one another and you're going through the highs and lows of winning and losing, that builds an emotional bond And people who tend to be in the situation together, they're bonded to each other more. They have a strong emotional bond with one another, and they obviously will value one another more because they've been in experience together. Well, when we step out of our comfort zones, obviously we're in places where we're uncomfortable. We're in places that we're not used to being. And when we're out of our comfort zone, we're called to draw into our deep strengths and resources and treasures that we didn't hitherto know we had or capable of. We're faced the highs and lows of failure and successes, and having to draw into our intestinal fortitude to continue going and continue on despite the fact in the face of discouragement and doubt and fear. And when we go through the experiences with ourselves, it builds a stronger bond, to ourselves. And with the stronger bond that we have, we value ourselves more, because stepping out of our comfort zones, we tend to see ourselves in a new light. We tend to have a greater appreciation for who we are, and we tend to gain a respect for who we are, because we're pulling things about ourselves we didn't have to be able to measure up to this new standard of comfort, or new standard of being out of our comfort zones, drawing all these different resources of ourselves and strengths of ourselves, and having that experience of growing to a bigger, stronger version of ourselves. That whole experience and bonding we have with ourselves tends to build, again, greater self-esteem. It helps us to value ourselves more. Step number 5, learn to take stock of your thoughts. And I give you this scenario. Think about the fact you're a CEO of a company. You hire a trusted CFO to take charge of your finances and books. And you look in the books every quarter, and you find out that instead of being in the black, you're in the red. And you're shocked. How could this be? We make such a great profit, and how come these books are showing us in the red? And then lo and behold, after some research and auditing, you find out that the bastard CFO has been siphoning your funds and putting it in your own private accounts. So any profit that you made each quarter has been stolen by the CFO. Well, it's the same thing with our minds. Because a lot of us are unconscious of what's going on in our heads and what we're telling ourselves, we're not aware of the thoughts that are completely, utterly depleting and taken away from our path and self-esteem. For instance, now, think about the fact that maybe you wake up in the morning and you say, today I'm going to pursue my dreams. But then at the end of the day, you find that you're just feeling dejected, depressed, and you haven't done anything at all. In fact, you did the exact opposite of pursuing your dreams. And now you do a little digging, you find out that throughout the day, you're telling yourself how ugly you are, how stupid you are, how you failed last week, or how your teacher called you a loser and she must be right. And all these different thoughts are going on in our head that were basically taking us off course of where we really want to go. Therefore, this is why it's important to take heed not only of our thoughts, but how we respond to them. Because thoughts are one thing, but now when we become aware of our thoughts, we need to train ourselves to respond to these thoughts differently so that they don't take us off course. Not only taken off of course, but also if you have a constant thing in your head telling you how stupid you are, of course it's going to take away the value of how you perceive yourself. This is why, again, learn to listen to what you're telling yourself, so that now you can respond differently. Instead of believing it, you can now, find another way or react differently or learn to respond differently so that it doesn't take away from your self-esteem. Next step number 6. And again, I apologize. I think I've totally lost track of the numbers, but whatever. As long as you're getting good information, that's really what's important. Learn to take stock of your emotions. And I alluded to this earlier about healing our emotional wounds, but let me expand on this point. Learn to become emotional aware. Think about it. We know that thoughts produce emotions. If you think about the happy times of, Christmas Day when you were 6 years old wrapping your gifts, you're going to start feeling happy emotions. If you think about the time when your dog died, or when your friend moved away, or when your girlfriend broke up with you, or boyfriend broke up with you, you're going to feel the emotions that were in concordance with those experiences. Well, it's the same thing. Emotions produce thoughts. And remember that we have emotions, tons of emotions in us from all the experiences we have in our life, because like I said, most of the time we don't usually give these emotional outlets, so they stay in our bodies. And these emotions produce thoughts. Like I said, try to if you feel angry about something, if you try to conjure up the feeling of anger, you're going to start thinking angry thoughts. If you try to feel the emotion of sadness, you're going to start thinking sad thoughts. Now, here's the thing. These self-improvement books, they teach us, the way to neutralize negative thoughts is to say affirmations. And I think that's completely, utterly nonsense most of the time, because what they fail to take into account is they're focused on the smoke, not the fire. A lot of times the fire are these emotions that are in our bodies that are producing these thoughts. So basically speaking, just saying affirmations, just dealing with the smoke, is not getting to the core, which is the fire. And the fire, are these emotions. And what we need to do is to start becoming aware of what we're feeling from moment to moment. And when we become aware of what we're feeling moment to moment, we'll know whether the emotion is sadness we're feeling, or anger, or anxiety, or fear, or whatever. And then we can start now learning how to give these, help these emotions to dissipate and express themselves. If you're thinking angry thoughts all the time, which cause you to behave angry towards people, we need to now focus on the fact, the emotion of anger you're feeling, and learn to give it a positive outlet. Whether it could be going for a jog, or going to the gym and hitting a heavy bag, or lifting weights, somewhere or another, to give this anger an outlet. And obviously, you don't want to go and beat your wife or punch someone straight in the face in the street. That's the wrong way to give the emotion outlet. But you want to find a positive way to give the emotion outlet. And again, any emotion that you feel, you want to become cognizant of what you're feeling at the moment, because these emotions produce negative thoughts, and these negative thoughts, again, take away from your self-esteem. So become emotionally aware. And also, as you become emotionally aware, I think I said it earlier, you have to feel it to heal it. Connected to the emotion will help you connect to yourself and embody yourself, and which again leads you to the experience of experiencing yourself. And the final step, I will say, is to get into some type of meditation or yoga. These are completely excellent ways to learn, to teach you how to get into your body. Get into your body, again, means to learn to experience who you are from the core. And learn to experience who you are from the core, learning to get to the core of who you are, which is a magnificent being that was created directly by the hand of the Creator, as opposed to a mind which is created by us and is filled, our ego, filled with our insecurities and our neuroses and our doubts and fears or whatever. That's our mind. And when we're connected to our mind, we experience stuff on a mental level, and this is why we have low self-esteem, because we're living through false concepts of who we are. But when we connect to ourselves, which is created to the hand of the Creator, by doing things like yoga or meditation, experience these wonderful beings of who we are, of course, will lead to us fully valuing who we are, and of course, and then having high self-esteem. Anyway, so I hope all this helps. This has helped me. This has definitely helped me more than anything I read in the book. This is personal experience. Stepping out of my comfort zone, honoring myself, learning to heal through therapy. All that has given me a greater connection to my core. And really speaking, connecting to my core has really made me appreciate and really experience who I really am. And when I see this and experience this, I'm just so in awe. I'm just naturally led to value who I am. Again, my work in progress. I'm not saying the journey's over yet. I still have ways to go in self-esteem, but these steps have helped. Also, I want to let you know, I'm actually working on a video that actually gets more in depth into self-esteem. I'm working on a longer video that goes into the difference between self-esteem and self-confidence, what self-esteem is not, and I go more in depth into these different steps I described earlier. And who knows, maybe one day I'll probably write a book on this whole thing, because I think this is very important. Also, I'll put a link to a blog I'd written several years back. It's called 3 Ways to Improve Your Self-Esteem. It goes more into, it's not as many steps I listed here, but it goes more into depth of what it is to have goes more into depth these individual steps of having self-esteem. Anyway, hope all this helps. If you want to follow me on Twitter, go to the Viable Alt. Also, you can click on my site once again, www.viablealternative.com. Anyway, wishing you all well, many blessings. Go out there and get the self-esteem you deserve in life. Trust me, it will really improve the quality of your life. Take care, God bless, and peace.